Join us today for an action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, where we talk about way too early starting pitcher rankings, part 2.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you could find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching it on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel and also gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, I keep bringing it up because, we're getting close to that time of the off season where everyone's, starting to delve back into fantasy baseball. But join us on Subtext. Guys, if you go to subtext.com, you search up Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Or even better, we have the link in the description. Click it. Matt and I are going to be giving out our rankings about probably top 15 at every position, maybe a little deeper in starting pitcher and outfielder. Look out for that. But Subtext, just a lot of in-depth information. Goes right to your phone. Join us there. We're getting back into starting pitching. This is part 2. We're starting to move more, outside of that top 20, moving towards 30, towards 50. We're probably going to do at least one more episode here with the starting pitcher. But Matt, who are we talking about first today, my brother?
All right. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Eury Perez. Somebody we might talk about next week when we have our special guest who we'll be announcing at the end of the show. But somebody I like a lot, and that's Eury Perez. Eury Perez just has all the makings of taking a Shane McClanahan step forward and just have that monster year 2, where there's just a ton of upside and a whole lot of pretty much unwarranted doubts. So yeah, there's just going to be there's no downside to pretty much picking Eury Perez because all signs just point to go. In his short, stint in the bigs, which honestly really isn't even short, 91 innings pitched. He had 108 strikeouts. He had an ERA of 3.15 and a WHIP of 1.128. To boot, when he first got the call up, he just decided to show out and just show everybody, who's their daddy. His first start wasn't the most encouraging, but from there, he really just smoked the cover off of everybody. In May, he had 19 innings pitched. He had 19 strikeouts and he had a 2.84 ERA with a 1.21 WHIP. Then in June, this is the most ridiculous month ever. 28 innings pitched, 35 strikeouts, a 0.32 ERA. 0.32 ERA. Monster.
Jeez.
Yeah. Let's go. And a 0.82 whip. Stellar numbers. Then I believe this is after he got the call to be sent down right before the All-Star break. He had about 2 starts in July, and they were both ugly. We were a little scared. He had a 9.95 ERA through that, but then bounced back in August and was able to get a 3.5 ERA with 20 innings and 29 strikeouts, and then had an ugly September, October. But the thing is, what Eury Perez showed is that he can handle himself, by far none in between with the big league talent. And on top of that, this year was the most innings he's pitched by 14 innings. And along with, the ups and downs of, actually way more than I apologize.
Yeah, he threw 36 in the minors too.
I forgot about that. So he pitched about 50 more innings than he has in his whole career, which I think the fatigue was kicking in September, October. So I feel like Eury Perez was just slowing down. Next year, I think that we're going to see a nice 150 to 160 range of innings pitched. I think that he's going to be consistent all year and has the upside to be a top 10 arm. Now, that isn't something that's guaranteed, but there's definitely some room for a slow start to go with it. So there is some risk of drafting where Eury Perez is probably going to go in drafts. But at the same time, by the end of the year, I feel like we're going to see a very special talent that's going to finish out the year real strong and possibly finish top 10. So Eury Perez, absolute monster for 2024.
Yeah, Matt, you're spot on. I mean, I think we agree on pretty much everything. I love the arsenal for Eury Perez. Fastball averages at 98, gets up there to 100, has a good slider, mixes in the curve and the changeup every once in a while. The kid's a giant. He's 6'8", 220, monster of a man. He's also only 20 years old, going to be 21 next year. This is a guy that's going to be around for a while, and he's going to be dominant for a while. I wouldn't be shocked if Eury Perez gets close to 170 innings next year plus. He sat around about 125 this year, 126. I have him as my 21st starting pitcher. ADP has him very similarly. It's about the 26th starting pitcher through 79 drafts on NFBC. We're using NFBC ADP right now. Pick 68 overall. I think if you're getting Eury Perez as your number 2, that's phenomenal. This kid has ace upside, as Matt said. There's a scenario where Eury Perez finishes the year as a top 10 pitcher. I'm not guaranteeing it, but there's a scenario where this kid throws 170 innings, has close to 200 strikeouts, a 3.3 ERA with a 110 WHIP would not surprise me at all. There might be some ups and downs along the way, but I absolutely love the outlook for Eury Perez heading into 2024. Let's move on to somebody else. This is somebody that everybody might not be that familiar with, especially if you're hopping back in from fantasy football. We're talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's out there on the free agent market, has not signed yet. An elite name coming over from Japan. He's 5'10", 176. So we go from a giant to somebody who's, not a massive human being, but you know what? He's a very talented one. He's been pitching for a while, though. He's going to be 25 this upcoming season. He's been pitching since he's 18 in the Japanese league. I'll read you his stats overall. 75 wins, 30 losses. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you, sir. Yes, y'all hot.
Yeah, sorry about that. Had a sneeze come on there. But once again, we're talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We're talking about what he did in his 7 seasons in the Japan League. It is 188 games, 75 wins, 30 losses, a 1.72 ERA, 967 innings, 986 strikeouts, a 0.91 WHIP. He's only had 1 season in all, and it was his rookie year in the Japanese league where he had a 106 WHIP. Every other year in his career under 1. Always been a K per 9 guy, always over a K per 9. The last 3 years in the Japanese league under 2 ERA. The upside is monstrous. This is a guy that, has an even better reputation than Senga. A 5-pitch mix. His fastball sits between 93, 95. He has a nice splitter. He throws a curveball. He throws a cutter. He throws a sweeper. All of them are pretty good pitches. He's just an amazing, amazing player. I think the 25-year-old is going to be a monster. He's won 3 Triple Crowns in the Japanese league. He's won 2 MVPs. I have Yamamoto ranked as my 20th starting pitcher. Actually, ironically, 1 spot ahead of Eury Perez. I just love the outlook. If you look at what Senga did last year, Yamamoto has the opportunity to be even better, and I think he will be.
Yeah, no, Yamamoto is very enticing for fantasy and just everybody as a whole. It's just a matter of landing spot. There's ties to St. Louis. There's ties to obviously Dodgers, Yankees, Boston's even in the mix. So, it's just a matter of where he lands is where I'm going to be able to say, okay, where's the most upside? Yes, he has the opportunity to finish as a stellar pitcher in the MLB. And we've seen with Kodai Senga how he instantly translated. But at the same time, you got to realize that there's a break off of, what that extra category is for starting pitcher, and that's wins. And what's the win upside going to look like? So Yamamoto is an interesting case, and more rankings updates will be made the second that he signs with a single team. So we'll see about that. But before we move on and we talk about a bunch of other awesome names that we feel we have to highlight today, I have a sponsor for you. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, then there's no better time to get in the action than now. The app is super easy to use with wide ranges of betting options, including point spread, player props, over and under, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season right. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. We are back, and guys, I really want to let you guys in on an awesome new thing that Locked On as a whole is doing. And we have our first ever 24/7 sports streaming channel on YouTube. Please go check that out. You'll be able to see all your local, sports teams on top of your national shows, and see us, Josh Lloyd, and all the other fantasy guys up on that channel. So make sure to check that out. And if you can, on top of that, check us out on Subtext. I have a feeling that we'll be dropping our rankings real soon, full tier-based rankings. You're going to want to get in on that early so that you can be prepared for your drafts come March. So join us on Subtext. All right, that's enough advertising and, getting in. Let's talk about a guy that I like to talk about, but, wasn't too happy with for the start of the season last year, and that's Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert as a whole finished with really nice numbers. Had what? Let's look at this real quick. 190 innings pitched, 189 strikeouts, a 3.73 ERA with a 1.07 whip. Really nice numbers. The only thing I don't like is the high ERA. It's it's significantly higher than 2022, and I'm a little disappointed in him. But there was some struggles to start the year. But as the season got, deeper, he got better with, longevity, and I think made some mechanical changes that really benefited him. The two largest months were really July and August, where he had sub-3 ERAs, and then even September was in the low fours, but still was pretty productive for fantasy and only had, I think, a bad start that really inflated the whole month. Logan Gilbert really decided to kick it up a notch and get to that nearly K per 9 that I was really hoping he'd be able to figure out, because last year he came up short by, 10. I was like, okay, this kid's got another level. He's going to be able to get to the K per 9. So he's done it one shy. I'm not even going to say, that's not a K per 9 at that point. And I think that we're going to see him slowly progress to be well over a K per 9. Logan Gilbert has all the upside in the world, especially with that team behind him in Seattle, and that rotation is spectacular. So I think for 2024, this dude has over a K per 9, more innings in him, and I feel that he could be a bona fide ace. The thing is, you don't really have to pay the price, if I'm not mistaken. He's going about 28, so your pitcher 3, which I feel very comfortable walking away with him right now as my pitcher 3. And I have a feeling as we get closer to draft season, he's going to fall a bit because of the suspicious feelings around the community as a whole. So Logan Gilbert could be a value if he falls into the mid-30s. So please make sure to keep track of where he's going to be.
Yeah, I don't love Logan Gilbert. I don't hate Logan Gilbert. Very good park to pitch in there in Seattle. Another guy, solid pitch mix, good fastball. Just hasn't really hit that next level yet, like Matt says. I think it's in there. I'm pretty sure it is. But I'm going to have to see something else for him to really, take it to that next level. The FIP has always been close to like a 3.5 or above for his whole career. So I think, his career 3.76 ERA over 88 starts kind of says a lot about him. I think it's a guy that's going to be mid-3s type ERA, close to that K per 9, definitely can give you 200 innings. The whip is going to be solid. It's just, I think he's consistently solid with Logan Gilbert. I have him as my SP33. As Matt said, you could get him as your SP3, and that's great. There might be some other guys that go in that range that have a little bit more upside. There's some guys that have a little bit more risk. But when you're taking Logan Gilbert, just know, you're going to get a guy that's just a solid starting pitcher. Let's move on to somebody that has a little bit more volatility. Let's talk about Walker Buehler, right? Now, Walker Buehler missed the whole season last year. Tommy John, Tried to work his way back, didn't make it back at the end. There's a lot of upside here with Walker Buehler. Matt and I have talked about him a lot. Just a tough guy to rank because when Walker Buehler's good, he's great. Let's talk about from 2018 to 2021, right before he got hurt in 2022. Excellent, 94 starts over that time period, 39 wins, 13 losses, 2.82 ERA, 564 innings with 620 strikeouts, and a 0.98 whip with a 3.16 FIP. FIP is fielding independent pitching. It's an ERA indicator. And, Logan Gilbert was spot on during that time period. The K upside is great. The wins upside is great. It's just how many innings is Logan Gilbert? Not Logan Gilbert. Walker Buehler going to give you in his first season back. I think 120 is a safe bet. Are those 120 going to be phenomenal? I'm not sure. There is the upside that we keep talking about, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see something like a 3.2 ERA, K per 9 with a whip that's probably maybe like a 1.15. Now, where do we take a guy like that? I have Walker Buehler as my SP24. I think it's going to move down a little bit just because, like I said, what happens when he starts to get to that, 120 inning mark? Do the Dodgers shut him down? Are we going to see a lot more 4-inning starts? The control is usually, one of the last things to come back when you haven't seen a pitcher pitch in a year or two. So I do have a lot of red flags on Walker Buehler, but I do think he's going to be very, very good. He's coming off the board right now as pitcher 45 overall. Once again, on NFBC, you can't sort by SP and closer. So Walker Buehler is the 45th pitcher overall. I'd say there's about 10 closers in there. So maybe it's like SP 35. Pick 103. I like that. I really think if we can get Walker Buehler as our SP4, it's golden. It's going to be very, very good. I don't know if that's going to happen because of the upside, but it's going to be an interesting year to see what happens with Walker Buehler because I am excited. I can't lie. And how old is he now? Is he still got? Yeah, he's still only going to be 29. Yeah, or 30. So he's getting a little bit older, but there's still a lot of upside.
Yeah, I look at Bueller and I'm like, okay, I think he's honestly just going to come out and surprise everybody. The only thing that I think is going to be high is the whip because he's going to be fighting for control, being that it's his second TJ. The only thing I think that the innings are actually going to be much higher than you're expecting of 122. I think we're probably going to see more like 150, where he's normally like a 200 innings guy. So yes, I think they might start him off slow with the 4 innings games, like through the first month, and then pretty much just unleash the kid as long as he's trending in the right direction. A lot of things are going to be, kind of decided in spring training of how they let him go through the pitching progressions of how they heat him up, or are they taking a conservative approach? Are they taking an aggressive approach? Are they just managing him? And as we get closer to opening day, we're going to have a better picture. But I feel that Walker Buehler is just going to be, a great asset, and that the price is pretty much going to stay the same because everybody's going to be hesitant because of that TJ. So this dude's an absolute, stud. And I feel like it's going to be a great draft pick if he's your pitcher 3 or 4 going into next year. So ultimately, I look at it like this. He's going to be on an episode again next week of one of my guys. And, I'm very excited for him for 2024 outlook. And maybe I'm a little bullish and maybe a little dazed, and maybe he's just my little baseball crush, but we'll see. I think Bueller is going to be fantastic next year. Just a slow start and a little control issues. But before we move on, we talk about my next guy here. We have one last sponsor for you. Sorry for my daughter in the background, but it is what it is. But anyway, so we're going to talk about somebody else that just was an absolute disappointment because, their phalanges are just as bad as Alberto Mondesi, and that's Tristan McKenzie. And for anybody that's new to the show, I love to call any injury-prone person a phalanges dude, which just means that, they're just injured all the time. Yes, I understand what phalanges actually are, which are your fingertips, but it's just funny, and it's just is stuck. So Tristan McKenzie's flansies are just horrendous, but the price might be right next year. So right now he's going at not at ADP of 91, which is obvious. Yeah, which is the hate has gone too far. I feel like a lot of people are just burned, but it's also not that many, drafts either where, the non-experts aren't in it yet. And just like the average person like us aren't drafting yet, where that's going to inflate it. I think he's probably going to finish around the like mid 40s to 50s in ADP just because of how many people gotten burned. But I'm going to tell you right now, Tristan McKenzie is going to be fantastic if he can make it out on the mound this year. He does come with quite some risk, but ultimately he is worth the risk. I mean, everybody knows that, Clayton Kershaw is somebody that's going to miss time. Like it's just a thing. It's built into his draft price. Tristan McKenzie is not anywhere near Clayton Kershaw, but he has the upside to be an ace potential when healthy. So Tristan McKenzie is definitely worth a snag as your pitcher 5 at that point, where I think is where he's going to finish in terms of ADP come draft season. So I'm 100% on board for Tristan McKenzie, and I won't be surprised if he's not ranked in like my late 30s, early 40s rankings as well. So I'm going to be very excited to draft him and honestly salivating because him as a pitcher 4 or 5 is pretty much a steal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna forget about McKenzie, and he's gonna kind of like fall to the wind, and like literally, he's what, one full season removed from 2022, where McKenzie in 2022 had 30 starts, a 2.96 ERA, 191 innings, 190 strikeouts, and an 0.95 WHIP. McKenzie's always had very, very good control. When he's not, giving up too many home runs, the ERA is usually always very good. A lot of upside, strong 3-pitch mix with the fastball, that sits around 93, gets up there a little bit higher than that when he needs to. Good slider, good curveball. Upside is very, very high for McKenzie. 26 next year. I have him as my pitcher 39. Once again, as Matt said, great 3-4 starting pitcher, and I think we're going to be able to get him even later. Cleveland, probably not. The wins aren't going to be great over there, but I really love Tristan McKenzie's upside, especially if the kid puts on a little bit muscle, it can stay a little bit healthier, hasn't been, the picture of health, with the elbow last year, he had the teres major also last year. He had shoulder issues in 2021. So somebody we're going to have to keep an eye on, but you're not paying, that crazy of a price for McKenzie. So I think there's a lot of value to be had in that. Let's move on to somebody else. I think there's a lot of value in that. I can't understand why he's going so late right now. Bailey Ober. I absolutely love Bailey Ober. I talked about him a lot last year. And he's currently coming off the board as the 69th pitcher overall, pick 172. So that's super late. You're talking about like an SP6 at that point. Ober had a strong season last year. Another big guy like Eury Perez, 6'9", 260, mountain of a man. Getting a guy that could throw 200 innings next year. Let's talk about his season as a whole. Last year, Bailey Ober, 8 wins, 6 losses, 3.43 ERA. It was 26 starts, 144 innings, 146 Ks, a 106 WHIP. Just somebody I've liked Bailey Ober for quite a few years now. Going to be 28 next year. Guys entering the prime of his career. Very, very good. Doesn't really walk too many guys. Gets a lot of swings and misses. Fastball doesn't blow you away, sits at 91, but he has a changeup that's good. The slider is solid as well. Even mixes in the curveball every once in a while. I have Bailey Ober probably too high. I have Bailey Ober at 32 right now when it comes to starting pitcher. I could see myself definitely moving him down a little bit. Somebody I'm excited about for next season. I think Bailey Ober is going to be very, very good. And the Twins are just going to let him run at this point.
Yeah, I agree on a lot of levels with when it comes to Ober. Honestly, I'm excited to see what next year brings. Ultimately there was a little bit of a downfall, but then kind of recovered towards the end of the season. So it's more of just like a wait and watch, and honestly could probably get him somewhat at a discount than where he would have done it if he would have performed for the whole year, right? You didn't mention his ADP by any chance?
I think I did. I'll throw it out there again. He's coming off the board. Pitcher 69, pick 172. A lot of value there, in my opinion.
So I'm going to throw out love the ADP. Hopefully it stays the same. Not just because of where he is, but because of the number, and because I'm a child. And anyway, Bailey Ober would be an absolute steal. Now that's going to rise. I could see him, slotting into the early 60s or late 50s, and being somebody's like pitcher 6 at that point, and that'd be a really nice rotation spot for you. But here's another guy I'm really excited about, and that's Cole Ragans. Cole Ragans got the trade mid-season at the trade deadline, which was great. Is now on the Kansas City Royals. Makes Texas just look like absolute boneheads for trading this dude away, because the second he touched down in Kansas City, the dude just was off the races, man. 71 innings pitched, 89 Ks, 2.64 ERA with a 107 whip. Absolutely stellar. I wasn't sure when the kid first got over there what he was really going to do. I really didn't even know the name all that much. But, the 2 starts that he first came out and did, and then boom, he just started bringing it all home. I'm like, yo, this kid might be legit. Now, here's the thing. With him as an ADP of like 50 right now, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let me just double check.
Yeah, 50 pitcher
51.
51 off the board, but pick 116 overall.
Right. Like that's kind of like a nice range. Like the price hasn't gone too high yet. So I'm like really okay with him being like my 5 or almost 4. I'd prefer him as my 5. So like Cole Ragans can truly, perform for you. And I just hope his price doesn't climb too high, because then you start going into this guy that, has a lot of risk reward situation. And if the love goes too high, then I feel that I might have to bow out at that point. So Cole Ragans is honestly on the fridge between, just right and Goldilocks just right, and, way too hot in the fire for me. And it might end up on my bust list if the love goes a little too far because of the price of what you might have to pay to get Cole Ragans. So we'll see. But Cole Ragans, a lot of upside. We'll see what happens.
I'm fully in on Cole Ragans, and I hate to be another one of those guys in the community that's just like, yeah, Cole Ragans is just that guy, but he's kind of just that guy. Matt, I think you read off his season as a whole, right? I think I'm just gonna do the numbers with Kansas City since
that's all I read.
Okay, yeah. So if Matt read off the numbers in Kansas City already, we know what we're talking about here. As soon as he got over there, he was kind of ignored in Texas with them getting DeGrom and having a lot of other starting pitchers to work with. They really didn't work with Ragans. Kansas City saw something in him, and they got him over there, upped his fastball. The guy gets up over 100. I think he was hitting 102 at certain points this year, averages around 98. I love the upside. The control has gotten so much better. Ragans is 25, so the breakout is believable. Going to be 26 next season. I'm surprised the ADP isn't higher. I have Ragans as my SP 28. I would love to be getting him as my SP 3 this year. And just the upside is top 20 starting pitcher for Cole Ragans. Sometimes guys come out of nowhere and they unlock that second level. Don't forget, when you're talking about anybody that's MLB is a premier athlete, is in the top 1% of athletes on earth. And some guys just need, to learn and, get that untapped potential. And I think Cole Ragans is one of those guys, and I think he's in for a monster 2024. If this ADP stays where it is, I think I'm going to have a lot of Cole Ragans for next season. But with that being said, guys, I think we're going to wrap things up here. We're definitely going to do at least one more starting pitching episode, so stay locked on for that. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Also, shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And once again, guys, don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. But guys, until next time, see you.
Peace.